Hello everybody and welcome back to the Eternal Sonata playthrough. It is time for the penultimate part of the playthrough and the final part of the Mysterious Unison. As you can see here, there are so many enemies to face down, it's kind of ridiculous. And they're all Ryugus and Astral Lights, and it will give you easily the hardest challenge that you will have faced down after Rondo, obviously. But actually, at this point, I can effectively run through the majority of the dungeon and not face, well, the majority of the floor, and not really face down that many enemies, because with everyone being quite a ways over level 70, well, mid-70s at this point, I'm pretty sure that I can take down the boss at the end of this. Especially with my dream team of Jazz, Viola and Alberto. Basically don't stand a chance, does anything. So, they're just going so far down with this. So, if you're wanting to get through floor 12 as quickly as is humanly possible, you've just got to follow your path until your first junction. And then you want to take a left, then you get to a crossroads. If you head southwest,
What did you think?
southwest on your crossroads, you'll get a Sheol sword. And then if you just head straight across, you'll eventually end up with a score piece.
Go in strong. Don't hold anything.
And then you can take either the left or the right paths at the crossroads to get to the top section. Once you get as far to the top as you can go, head all the way to the left to get Beswell's sword, and then just head all the way to the right and follow the path, and you're basically through floor 12. As I said, it's far less complicated than how challenging floor 11 was to get through, because that was ridiculous. But it's okay in the grand scheme of things. To be fair, I think they thought level 11 was really long, really challenging, and they shoved Unison Rondo at the end of it. So they wanted to give you a little bit of a rest, I suppose, on floor 12 by making the layout less challenging but throwing in more enemies, so you kind of had that choice in how you wanted to tackle it. You can either clear the thing out and be at a ridiculously high level come the end of the game. Like, I remember the guy that I was using recommended you be level 82 for Rondo and level 84 for the optional boss, and then level 86 for the final boss. No. That's far too excessive, and you do not need to level up that much. If you get to around level 70 as I was, then obviously Rondo should not be a problem. And if you're perhaps sitting around level 75 for the optional boss, you should be okay again. With the final boss, you should actually be okay at level 66, or perhaps even level 60, to be honest. The final boss is nowhere near as challenging as Rondo, I would say. Because the final boss doesn't hit as quickly, and also, oh, I'm loving that weapon. That is a glorious weapon, and it shall get its use. Yes, we're already a third of the way done with this floor. Like, as I said, actually, in the grand schemes of its layout, it's not that much of a bother whatsoever. I mean, it probably helps that, you know, I'm running away from every enemy possible. As you can see, by this point in the game, I was fed up of battles. I love Eternal Sonata. I love its battle system. It's a lot of fun. It has one of the best pieces of music in gaming with Make the Leap. It's brilliant. But once you get to the end of the Mysterious Unison, you're kind of just like, I'm ready for you to be done now, Mysterious Unison. You have 100% beaten me into submission, and I'm not sure I can face you down for much longer. And yeah, but it's all good because I am going to get to have a really nice rest, shall we say, in the next part, because there are a lot of cutscenes in the next part. Which is obviously the end of the game. And it's kind of ridiculous. That said, it is not the longest cutscene ever. No, that title is held by Metal Gear Solid 4, having the longest cutscene in a game, which is 27 minutes long, and the longest cutscene sequence in a video game, which is 71 minutes. And the fact that that longest individual cutscene is within that 71 minutes sequence it's just mind-blowing. That said, Eternal Sonata probably does give Metal Gear Solid 4 a run for its money in terms of how long its ending cutscenes are. It's like yeah. So I was actually googling it to see, and oh, this might give me the list that I was looking for.
All right, let's keep moving forward.
And this is just going to make me happy. Because, obviously, we've still got a little bit of a ways to go before we get to the very end of this floor. And yes, Eternal Sonata sits at number 4 on the longest game endings of all time, sitting at a grand total of 44 minutes. So when you see the length of the next part, know that 44 minutes of that is cutscene. It's insane. But it's definitely worth sitting through all of it because it's stunning. You then have, if you want to go longer than that, you have Xenosaga 3, and I don't know whether the subtitle of that is also Sprax Zarathustra or whatever, but it's there.
What?
then the delightful number 2 is Dragon
Take that.
Quest 8, which is 45 to 50 minutes, not including the credits. And then obviously Metal Gear Solid 4 being the big beast of an ending. That list was done in 2010, so there might have been newest games since then to have ridiculously long endings. But A Tale Sonata certainly ranks among them. I mean, 3/4 of a bloody hour is a long time for a cutscene.
Afraid in the night come the wings of death. Bloody blue.
What's really annoying is that if only it was classified as a single cutscene, because then that would have obviously trashed Metal Gear Solid 4's 27-minute cutscene. But
Maybe it's time
them's the breaks. Is that the phrase? I don't really know anymore. But it's fine, because that is my final battle that I am going to get into before I finish off this dungeon once and for all. I don't know whether I may have just missed a chest, but at this point, I actually don't care. I just want to get to the boss and to finish off this dungeon once and for all, as I've said, because it has been such a long time coming. From when I first played A Tale Sonata, and this is just going to be a very proud moment in my life, I feel. It's not actually going to get me entirely the outcome that I wanted, because I thought, and certainly remember seeing somewhere, that completing this dungeon does unlock, does mean that claves will be visible in the final cutscenes, but that doesn't seem to actually happen here. Don't know why. I suppose it's just one of those things, but still. Let's fully stock up, save the game. That is obviously incredibly important, because our optional dungeon awaits. Optional boss, the final one of the mysterious unison, on floor 13, because of course it had to be floor 13. And here we go. This right here is the Annihilator. And it's obviously the final boss of the mysterious unison. Obviously, as you can see, it is just a palette swap of the ruined body, but he is very challenging. And what can get quite frustrating is that he has the ability Regenerate. Well, so he has a move which is called Reclaim, which he will use at the beginning of a turn to place himself in Regenerate status, which will heal him. So, you've got to make sure that you stay on top of him. The best route for this, generally, is to, if you go in with Jazz, Viola and Allegretto, put Viola in one of the bits of light in the corners of the arena, because obviously she can still hit the Annihilator from a distance, but also it means that she's constantly going to be able to give you heal arrows, and also if you're given a full barrage, she's going to be able to use that when you are in the middle of a harmony chain. And obviously, if you're going in with Jazz and Allegretto, they are probably going to be your biggest damage outputters. So that's why they are recommended as your key players. And also, if you can make sure that Jazz and Allegretto try and keep the Annihilator away from Viola, then that means that she can pretty much attack without any sort of worry. And if you've given Jazz an item like I have, which heals him with every attack, you are quids in with dealing with this, and it's pretty awesome. Now, what's really awesome is that once again we get to listen to the awesome track that is Unbalanced. This was used for the Ruined Body as well, but it's still pretty awesome to hear now. Now, one thing that is actually kind of interesting is that in the PS3 version of the game, the amount of experience points granted for defeating the Annihilator was reduced by over 2/3, and its HP was reduced by just over a half. The Great Ezzy, the boss of the Church of Ezzy, which is the extra optional dungeon which was added to the PS3 version, carries a higher HP total than the Xbox 360 version of the Annihilator, but morphs into Bouncing Ezzy in the Darkness, which has about as much HP as the PlayStation 3 Annihilator. Both ultimately give less experience points than the 360 version of Annihilator, but that's fine. What's kind of frustrating is that in the 360 version, whenever he goes into regenerate, it gives him about 99,200 health back. In the PS3 version, I think it's only about 49,000. Because in terms of health, you're looking at 4,958,710 health in the 360 version, and 2,450,000 in the PS3 version. And he would be a big challenge. He sort of is, but I would say that while the fight is longer than you will have faced with Rondo, it's easier in the grand scheme of things, because while his attacks can do great amounts of damage, I'll get there eventually, and he will do things that you really don't want him to do, like, you know, going after Viola when I'm purposely trying to avoid that. As long as you're set up, because he is as slow moving as he is, you are generally really quite able to block his attacks, and that does just make life so much easier when taking him down, and I am totally okay with that. And what's kind of actually really bloody typical is that when I was recording this, I ended up having another lovely recording glitch. It didn't happen during the boss fight. It happened during the cutscene that is going to follow, when I really could do without a glitch. Like, I've just about sort of managed to wrangle my way through bits of the gameplay where that's occurred, just by going, well, let's just cut out that battle, or let's leave a place and come back into it, and all that sort of stuff. But in a cutscene, can't really do that with this game. Don't really want to either. So I end up having to go back in and fight the bloody Annihilator again. Because of course I did. It's just the way clearly my life was meant to go when recording this game. It just had to give me the biggest challenges possible. But to be fair, it's fine. because facing down this guy feels to me very much like when I took on and beat the Phantom and Sephiroth in my Kingdom Hearts playthrough. Because those were optional bosses that I had never, well, I'd tried both of them actually, but I never managed to beat them because they were just too difficult. So to actually beat them in that playthrough, that was just a beautiful moment that made me so incredibly happy. And really this did too, because it's always really satisfying when you beat something that is a great challenge, especially after you, well, especially if you've left it for a long time. So, for example, if I ever went back to Super Mario Galaxy 2 and managed to beat the perfect run of Grandmaster Galaxy, I think I would feel so amazing. Because that's the only star I've never gotten in that game, and it kills me that that is the case, because I was so close to 100%ing it. But it was just too much of a challenge and I couldn't face it anymore. It drove me balmy. And I'm pretty sure my only hope of ever beating it now would be to replay through the entirety of Super Mario Galaxy 2 again. And that's probably not quite going to happen, so... That's life. But here we can see the Annihilator is nearly dead. He's probably going to start using Reclaim right now and giving himself back all that health. And I'm just going to be going, no, don't do that please. That's really annoying, but these things happen. And he's probably regretting coming up to take on Viola now, because he's gotten himself stuck in a triangle formation. Which, while he can do that to us, means that Viola can get off a Bone Crumble and... it's never going to end well for him. Although really annoyingly I was just a teeny bit too far away in order to get that Bone Crumble off on him, but still. If I'm looking at my battle time correctly, we are so close to beating him. And I think maybe this next attack might be the one.
Dust on the ground.
Maybe not. Why did he have to guard on it? God damn him. Oh! We ended it on a full barrage. Totally down with that. And as everyone levelled up a ridiculous amount, I had the feeling, is Viola going to get to level 80? Ah, so close, and yet so far. But totally fine, because we've got the final soul shard, and Claves' soul can now be reborn. And now Claves has permanently joined our party. Not really going to get any use anymore, but still. Time for our final piece of Chopin. Heroic. The word Polonaise means Polish. In other words, the hero Polonaise represents the greatness of Poland. Chopin composed this piece in 1842 at the age of 32, 7 years before his death. During this period, Chopin's tuberculosis flared up, and he was sometimes overcome by fierce coughing and forced into bed for weeks at a time. It was amidst these difficulties that this great composition in praise of his homeland was born. Majestic, strong, and proud. Unabashedly bold. The courage of his comrades who had bound together. The unwavering faith of the Polish people. The pride Chopin felt for the country of his birth could be expressed in no grander or more heroic music than this. In central France, about 200 miles south of Paris, in the province of Berry, lies a village called Nohant. The pastoral landscape that spreads across the land there resembled the village of Zelazowa Wola, where Chopin had been born. When he left Majorca and returned to France through Marseille, he was in very poor health. The atmosphere in Nohant gave him strength. On the outskirts of Nohant, there lay a mansion. It was a relatively large stone building with a sparse outward appearance. That was purchased by Marie Aurore Dupin, George Sand's grandmother. Chopin and Sand spent the summer in that mansion in Nohant. Chopin was given a room on the second floor where he lived an idyllic life. Never needing to worry about anything but his piano playing. By this time he had become a celebrity known to all, and in Paris was kept busy with social parties, performances and lessons. It was difficult for him to focus on composing while in Paris. But he lived a contented life away from all that in Nohant with Sand and her family. The power of Nohant temporarily staved off Chopin's terrible illness and revived the memories of his homeland. And in that peaceful environment, he composed many famous pieces. It was there that this masterpiece was born. Perhaps it is an accumulation of the feelings that Chopin had for his homeland. But one can feel a kind of power and persuasiveness in this piece that is hard to imagine originating from a performance on a single piano. It's almost as if one can feel the invisible power of the entire nation of Poland behind it. If one ever wondered just how proud Chopin was of his home country, this piece answers that question eloquently. And with that beautiful piece of music, Heroic, we are done with the mysterious unison. All that is left is to finish this game, so I will see you next time for the finale of Eternal Sonata. See you then.